Wagwan people, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to break down how I made this Dark Grime Beat, so let's get straight into it. So when I started making this grime beat, I started off with this bell sound right here, and this is what it sounds like. And the effects that I used on there was a H delay, and the timing for the H delay was a quarter. My feedback was at 41%, and my drying wet was at 35%. Next I used an EQ, and I just took off all the lows. I took off everything below 136 Hz, and that was it. Next I used a bell one shot, and I used it in the sampler, which I made myself. And as you can see, it's just one note, and it's on the note of C sharp. I'm currently working in the key of C sharp minor, and this is what it sounds like. And I didn't add any effects to that, I just left it the way it was. Next I added an accent, which I got from the sound kit called Euphoria, which was made by Tri-Freeze, and this is the name of the accent. It's called Clueless Synth Texture. The link for that sound kit will be in the description box below, and this is what it sounds like. And the effects I used on there were an EQ, and I took off everything below 320 Hz. Then I added a H delay, and my timing's on a quarter. My feedback is at 60%, and my drying wet is at 46%. Then I added the flute, and it's this one right here called Flute Accentuate, which I got from the sound kit ATL Culture. All the sound kits that I'm using for this project, the link will be in the description box below, and this is what it sounds like. And then the first effect that I added was a doubler, which is from Waves. Then I added some Valhalla shimmer, and all I done here was I turned the mix down to 0.34. Now with all of them together, this is what it sounds like. Once I was happy with that, I bounced them all down to one single audio file. Once it was bounced in place, I decided to reverse it. This is what it sounds like in reverse. The first effect I added was a halftime. So for the speed of the halftime, I left it on 1 bar. The mode is on 1.5x, and as you can see, my mix is at 100%. Then I added a channel EQ, and I took out everything below 180 Hz. And this is what it sounds like with the effects on it now. Once I had that sample, I started to add more elements, so then I could just build it out. So the first one shot that I found were some keys, and I made these keys myself. Now these sounds that I've made myself, they will be available soon, as I'm still working on my sound kits. And this is what it sounds like. And then I added some effects. The first effects that I added was a halftime, and my speed is on a half, my mode is on 1.5x, and my mix is all the way on 100%. Next I added some Valhalla delay, and my mix is on 39, my timing is on a quarter, and my feedback is on 70%. Now this is what it sounds like with the effects on it. Once I was happy with that, I bounced it down to an audio file. Once I bounced it down to an audio file, I chopped it up and I rearranged it, and then I added some effects. And the first effect I added was another halftime, and my speed is on half, my mode's on 2, and my mix is on 100%. Then I added an EQ, took out everything below 210 Hz. Then I added a compressor. This is Waves R compressor. Now I added this compressor to help control the dynamics. When I say dynamics, I mean the difference between the loudest and the quietest parts. So the reason for me adding this compressor was to help bring the loudest parts and the quietest parts to a more even playing field. After that, I added the limiter. This is Waves limiter. Now I added this limiter to help catch the peaks and to also give me some more volume. This is what it sounds like with the effects on it. Then I use those same keys again, pull it on another channel, and then just pull it in reverse, and then I added some effects to it. The first effect I added was an EQ, took out everything below 286 Hz. and then I added an R compressor, and the same principles here again is to help balance the dynamics of the keys, and this is what it sounds like. Now this is what all of them sound like together. Next I added an ethnic one shot, and this is it right here. It's a Erhu staccato, and I got this from the Euphoria sound kit, and this is what it sounds like. Then I added some effects to it, and the first effect I added was a halftime, and my speed's on a half, my mode is on 1.5x, and my mix is at 100%. Then I added some Valhalla delay, and my mix is on 39%, the time is on a quarter, and my feedback is on 70%. And this is what it sounds like with the effects on it. Once I was happy with that, I bounced that down to an audio file. Once I bounced it down to an audio file, I started to chop it up, and this is how I've chopped it up here. As you can see, I've just took 3 parts from it. I'll play it, and this is what it sounds like. So you can hear a reverse part in there, and the part that I reversed is this one right here. And I added some effects to all of those. The effect that I added was a H delay, and here are my settings. So it's a quarter triple, my feedback's on 66%, and my drone rate is on 49%. I'll play it, and this is what it sounds like with all the effects on it now. Now this is what it sounds like all together so far. Now, as you can hear, it's really starting to come together now with all the different timings of the delay and the different speeds and modes of the halftime. It gives your samples like all these different transitions, unique bounces. I like to use these effects a lot, even though you've seen me use like really simple patterns, but when you're using your effects to create these different bounces and these different transitions, and then you put them all together, you really get these unique sounds and bounces. After that, I added an accent, and this accent I made myself, and this is what it sounds like. So what I've done here is I've laid it out, and on this one right here, I've took off the first 2 bars. I've added some effects, and the first effect I added was a sound shifter, and I've pitched up 1 semitone to put it back into key. After that, I've added a halftime, and my speed's on half, my mode's on 1.5, and the mix is on 100%. I added some Valhalla frequency echo, and my mix is on 50%, and my timing is on a quarter. So these are all the settings right here, and then I added some EQ, and I've taken everything out below 127 Hz. Then I added some kickstart, and my mix is on 77%, and my timing is on a half, and this is what it sounds like with all the effects on it now. And all together. After that, I added some vocals, which I got from Vocalize from the Contact Sound Bank. And this is the vocal phrase that I use, this one right here. And as you can see, I've only used 2 notes. This is what it sounds like. So once it was bounced down to an audio file, I chopped it up and put some of the vocals on their own channels. So as you can see here, I've got this vocal right here sitting on this channel, and then this vocal is on this channel. I've done this because I wanted to process parts of the vocal differently from one another. So with this first vocal phrase, I reversed it. I added some effects to that, and the first effect I added was Valhalla Shimmer, and my mix is on 50%, and I left everything else pretty much the same. Next I added some RVox. Now this RVox is from Waves, and I've done this just to add some more compression, just to help balance out the dynamics, and you do that by just pulling down this knob right here. On this part of the vocal, I didn't reverse it, I just kept it normal. The first effect I added to that was an R-Vox. Then I added Waves Harmony. Now I like this plugin because when you have vocals and you add this plugin to the vocals, you are able to build harmonies out of the vocals. So now listen with the effects on it. Now this is what it sounds like with these vocals in so far. Then I added some more vocals which I got from Arcade, and it's this library right here, Sanctum, and this is what it sounds like. And once I bounced it down to audio, I chopped it up and just took a part of that vocal, and this is it right here. And as you can see, I've added some fade in and I've added some fade out. The first effect I added was an EQ, and as you can see, I've took out everything below 256 Hz. Then I used the low shelf, then went up to 416 Hz, and then went down to minus 7.3 dBs, and I've done that to take out some of the lower mids. I wanted more of the higher end of the vocal. Then I added some delay, and as you can see here, my speed is on the half, my feedback is on 49%, and my dry and wet is on 35%. Then I added the compressor. Now I use this compressor to help balance out the dynamics. Then last but not least, just to finish off this sample, I added some soundscapes, and I got this soundscape from Omnisphere. And I went to category, went to here, textures playable, and it's this preset here, visions, and this is what it sounds like. Once I bounced it down to audio, I just kept the first two bars. Towards the end of it, I added some fade out, and once I added that fade out, I added an EQ, and I took out everything below 310 Hz, and this is what everything sounds like now. After that, once I was happy with everything, I decided to go and find some Perc Loops, and then I found this one right here. This is what this loop sounds like. Then once I found that Perc loop, I chopped it up. So I took sections that I wanted, and then I took sections out that I didn't want. I added an effect to it, and the only effect that I added was an EQ, and as you can see, it's heavily EQ'd. I've took out everything below 1300 Hz, and this is what it sounds like all together now. Next, I added some bass, and the first bass I added was an 808, and it's this one right here, -1 octave, and I got this from the ATL Culture drum kit, and this is what it sounds like. And the only effect that I added to that 808 was some distortion, and it's this distortion right here called FabFilter Saturn. This is one of my favorite distortion plugins, especially when working with basses or 808, because not only does it come with distortion, it's also got a built-in EQ, so you can enhance or take away from each band, and while you're doing that, you can drive it to give it more saturation. So with each band, you can add more harmonics. This is what it sounds like with the FabFilter Saturn distortion. Now you can hear that it's really brought out the harmonics and gave it some more saturation. Then I added another 808, and I use this one a lot of the time, and I got this from Splice, and this is the name of the 808 right here. And here's the pattern for it. And as you can see, it comes at the end of the 4th bar, and this is what it sounds like. And I didn't add any effects to that bass, I just left it the way it is. Then I added another bass, which I got from here, the EFM1 plugin, which is Logic's own plugin, and it's this bass right here called Fretless Wave Bass, and this is what it sounds like. And the only effect I added there was an EQ, and I took out some of the lows, and I took out some of the highs. Now this is what the basses sound like with all the melodies and the perks. So next I started with some drums, and every time I start my drums I always start with the snares. So I found this snare, this one right here, and I got this from Splice, and this is what it sounds like. Then I added another snare, which I also got from Splice, this one right here, and I added two effects to it, and the first was an EQ, and I took off everything below 115 Hz. Then I added some reverb, and my mix is at 12.2%, and as you can see my decay is at 0.2 seconds, so it's a really short decay, and it's not a very big reverb. So this is what it sounds like with the effects on it. Then I added the clap, which I got from the ATL Culture Kit, and it's this one right here called Crystal, and I added some effects to it, which was an EQ, and I took out everything below 450 Hz, because I wanted this clap just to sit on top of the snares. So this is what it sounds like with all the snares together now. After that I added some hi-hats, which I also got from Splice, and it's this hi-hat right here, and this is what it sounds like. It may look a bit complex, but actually it's not, because all it is just a 2-bar loop. So it's just these two just looped over, and then the different colours are the different velocities. So I've changed the velocities just to give the hi-hats a unique bounce. Then I added some more hi-hats, which I also got from Splice, and it's this one right here, and this is what it sounds like. And once again it's just a 2-bar pattern just looped, and also you can see I've changed the velocity on some of the notes as well. And this hi-hat just sits underneath the main hi-hat, and I've panned it to the right. As you can see here, it's plus 25 to the right. Next I added some shakers, which I also got from Splice, and it's this one right here, and as you can see here I've panned it to the left, so I play it and this is what it sounds like. Then I added another shaker, which is also from Splice, this one right here, but this time this one's panned to the right, and this is what it sounds like. And as you can see I've played with the velocity just to give it a unique bounce. Then last I added a kick, which I got from the ATL Culture Kit, and it's this one right here called Bloody, and this is what it sounds like. And then I added EQ to that kick, and I took out everything below 52 Hz just to create space for my basses. And what I also done with my kick drum, I sidechained it to my bass. So when I go on my bass channel, I put a compressor on the bass channel right here. Now to set up a sidechain within Logic, click on this box right here next to where it says sidechain. For me to find my kick drum, I had to go to Instrument and then come down to here where it says Kick, and then select it. As I play it, watch this meter right here as the kick plays, and what happens is as the kick is playing, this meter will duck down. So this means that as the kick is playing, it's ducking the level of the bass, so giving the kick drum more space. You are able to separate those two elements and keep your low end more defined, so give your low end more definition. This is what it sounds like. Now with everything together, this is what everything sounds like now. Now as you can see here, I've arranged it. So let's start with the intro. Now my intro is 16 bars and it's split up into two, so 2 8 bars. So this 8 bar right here is just parts of the melodies. And then the second 8 bar, all of this is when I begin to introduce more elements. I'm preparing everyone for the drop. So the elements that I've added in the second 8 bar of the intro are the Perc Loops and the hi-hats and some of the basses and another element of the melodies as well. So when it drops with the full beat. So it drops with all my drums and it drops with some of the melodies and then it drops with all the basses. And as you can see here, at the end of this 8 bar of the drop, I've taken out the last bar of the kicks, the snares, and the hi-hats, just to help give some transition and not to keep everything the same. Then after that, as you can see right here in this space right here, the first 2 bars, I've taken out the snares, the claps, and the shakers. And then for the whole of this 16 bar, I've added the perks, and then I've added all the vocals. And once I was happy with that, I just copied all this section here and then just duplicated it, and that's how my beat's laid out. Now let's give that a listen. And that's the end of the tutorial. I really hope that you liked it. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And more importantly, I hope that you've learned something. Until next time, peace out.